So our first paper will be delivered by Blair, and it's entitled Pre-Columbian Links to the Caribbean, Evidence Connecting Cusabo to Tainoâ.
Okay, this is the speculative part of the LAVIS paper. And we're going to be talking about, well, the language I'm going to be talking about, Cusabo, was spoken by the people who were living around present-day Charleston, South Carolina, when the Spanish and English arrived in the 16th and 17th century. And the linguistic and cultural affiliations of that language, or languages, I'm not even sure about that, are generally considered unknown. So what I'm going to talk about today is what some possibilities, a possibility that they are connected to Tainoâ. The distribution of the Cusabo people is shown on map A of the handout. And on the map, the names are really tiny, so I've put them below the map so you can read them a little better. The Cusabo territory stretched from the Savannah River to the Wando River, just south of the Santee and from the Atlantic coast for an unknown distance inland, perhaps as far as the point where the Congaree and Wateree rivers join to form the Santee. The neighbors of the Cusabo to the southwest across the Savannah were the Wali, a group whose cultural and linguistic affiliations are also unknown. And to the northwest along the Santee were the Catawba-speaking peoples, including the Santee Siwi and the residents of the chiefdom of Cufetachequi, which I'll say more in a minute. The area immediately to the west of the Cusabo on the north side of the Savannah River was an uninhabited or sparsely inhabited no man's land that apparently served as a buffer between the Muscovian peoples of northeastern Georgia, that is the Catawban peoples of the chiefdom of Cufetachequi and the Carolinas. The principal sources of data on the language or languages of the Cusabo people are place names, a few personal names, and one or two isolated vocabulary items recorded by Spanish, French, and English explorers and colonists in the 16th through 18th centuries. Okay, as noted earlier, most people list the language and ethnicity of the Cusabo people as unknown. The one exception to that was John R. Swanton, who proposed in 1922 that the Cusabo were a Muscovian speaking group. And I'm just going to kind of briefly go through his 8 arguments in favor of being Muscovian, because I'm going to trash each argument as it goes along. First, he observed that some place names and personal names contain an L and an F sound that were characteristic of Muscovian languages, but and all but unknown to occur in Catawban languages in the area. However, Swanton's one personal name containing the sound F was a Wali name, not a Cusabo name, and the instances of names containing the sound L are variants of words that elsewhere were written with R or D, like Edisto in English appears as Augusta in French, and Oresta in Spanish. Secondly, during the Tuscarora Wars of 1711-1713, Captain John Barnwell, who led the colonial and Indian forces against the Tuscaroras, put the Cusabo, called Cusabo by Barnwell, in a mixed Indian company together with the Yamasee, Yuchi, and Appalachian. Well, they put the Congarees and Santees, two other native peoples of the area, in their company that contained other groups belonging to the chiefdom of Cufetachequi, and presumably were Catawban speaking. However, all that Barnwell's action tells us is that the Cusabo were probably not Catawban. It's not evidence that the Cusabo were Muslim. Swanton's third piece of evidence is that Cusabo guides who accompanied French Huguenots to obtain corn from the Wali chief were able to talk to the Wali chief without a problem. Swanton assumed this meant that the Cusabo guide spoke a Muscovian language because he assumed that the Wali were also Muscovian people. However, we now pretty much look at place names of the Wali and sort of determined that the Wali are Muscovian either. So Swanton's observation means either that the Cusabo and Wali spoke the same non-Muscovian language, which appears unlikely, or that there were people in these two communities which had long been neighbors that were bilingual in the two languages and therefore could talk to each other's communities. His fourth reason for believing the Cusabo are Muscovian-speaking people involved in analysis of the use of interpreters in Spanish dealings with Wali and Cusabo, in which, as Jean Waddell, an expert on Cusabo, has shown, Swanton seriously misunderstood who was talking to whom. data on use of interpreters just says that the Cusabo people, the Wali people, the Santee people, and the Spaniards each spoke a different language. And quickly go out, his fifth argument is that the Cusabo used the term Nico to talk about a village leader, and the term Nico comes from Muscovian language, probably possibly Creek. However, the term Nico was also documented by the Spanish as being used in reference to Catawban chiefs and Yuchi chiefs, and just about any chief in the southeast. And so it's just one of these terms that the Spanish had picked up from Muscovian speakers when they first got the Spanish around Florida, the southeast, and then used for everybody. So it was part of the Spanish colonial jargon. Sixth piece of evidence, Swanton proposed a possible connection between the Cusabo ending bo-bu, which appears often, including on the word Cusabo. It occurs often, though not exclusively, on the names of rivers. And he speculated that it was connected to a Choctaw word bok, which he says might be related to Alabama Pawnee, Tunuqua Igene, and Appalachian Ubab, all words which he claimed that water or river. And more will be said about the subject of all in a moment. Seventh, and next to last, the seventh accusation used to bolster his contention that Cusabo was Muscovian language was the unusually large number of place and personal names documented for Cusabo, which began with the letter W, or the sound W. And in fact, the W is a common initial in stream names for the Creek language due to the fact that they often begin with a V, a contraction of Oiwa. However, the majority of names that begin with W in Cusabo have nothing to do with rivers, streams, or bodies of water. So that's irrelevant piece of evidence in Swanton's works. Last, Swanton's eighth and final argument was that the English relied on interpreters from the Cusabo community of Tainoâ in their dealings with the residents of Confederchetti, the powerful chieftain of Ship, upstream on the watery river. This fact was important to Swanton because he also believed that the chieftain of Confederchetti was Muscovian speaking. This is kind of a pattern that Swanton is assuming everybody's Muscovian in the southeast. But anyway, he's assuming Confederchetti is Muscovian speaking based on the similarity between the ending of Confederchetti to the Chigi word for a group of dwellings, and the similarity of the first part of the name to the name of the Muscovian community, Kashita,